Welcome back to Mental Health with Bay. I'm trying something a little different with the video and audio today, so hopefully it looks okay. Today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic in mental health, codependency. What I like to call the prickly pear of mental health symptoms, because every time I talk about it, I feel a little prickly on my insides. The reason I felt the need to bring up codependency is because I've heard a lot of misconceptions about codependency through my time in treatment and just kind of over the years. And once I learned what codependency actually is, I was able to address it and treat it a lot better than before. Here are 7-ish misconceptions about codependency and what the truth of codependency actually is. So the definition of codependency that I'm going to be using comes from the Phoenix Recovery Center's workbook that they give to their clients. Codependent can be best defined as a person who is a lost self. And that is the basic definition. They go on to say someone who cannot function from their innate self, but reacts and organizes their thinking and behaviors around another person, relationship, substance, or a process. So first misconception is people think of codependency as not being able to live without their romantic partner. And although that can be a behavior that comes from codependency, codependency is specifically a lost self. If someone and their partner are both very much themselves and they are living by their own values, they're comfortable in who they are as a person, but they depend on each other financially or they depend on each other emotionally for support, that is not necessarily codependency. But if someone depends on their romantic partner for their entire sense of self, and they couldn't survive without their partner because they would not be a whole person if they were to not be in that relationship, that's where codependency comes in that specific scenario. I'd like to mention here that being a lost self doesn't just mean that you're a complete shell of a person, although that can be true. Sometimes it's just not sharing your emotions with the people around you in fear of losing them, or not sharing certain opinions that you have with other people because you're afraid of losing them, because you are lost yourself and depend on them for your sense of self. Whatever your specific truth is, if you are dismissing it or shoving it down or hiding it, that is codependency. Next misconception, you can only be codependent on other people, which is not true. You can be codependent with your job, suicidal thoughts, a certain drug, a religion. Act from your intuition to make the best decisions for yourself. Another misconception about codependency is that people choose it. Codependency comes from trauma. So nobody just wakes up and decides, oh yeah, I'm going to be codependent today. It is very much born from either childhood or another type of relational trauma where you had to lose yourself in order to survive the situation that you were in. Learning this about codependency for me was huge because I've always been so ashamed of my codependent tendencies and behaviors in my past. It's not my fault that I'm codependent, but I do need to take accountability for my codependency because it is my responsibility. Another misconception about codependency is that it is always, always, always bad and the worst decision. Yes, codependency is an unhealthy or maladaptive coping behavior. Often it is used to cope in extremely serious situations that could be potentially dangerous if codependency were not being used. A lot of self-compassion for myself, and I hope it does for you too, where you don't blame yourself for using maladaptive coping skills because they were necessary at a time. But now that I know, and now that you are learning what codependency is, what to look for, why it happens, you can start to dismantle your codependency. And now that we know better, we can do better. Most people don't realize when they're being codependent, and it takes ridiculous amounts of self-awareness and ability to feel safe in your body and therapy skills and therapy itself probably to be able to realize that you are being codependent and to address it. And it is so hard. You can't just go up to someone and be like, hey, you're being codependent, and they'll be like, oh, so sorry, my bad, and then just like stop immediately. That's not how it works, and often people don't recognize it and are not aware of it, be gentle with people in your life who are being codependent. It's likely that they're coping with a lot and are using codependency as a survival skill. The last misconception about codependency that I will be offering to you today can be broken out of by just withdrawing from everything and not needing anyone ever for anything. That is still losing yourself. If you are a human being, you need human connection. You just do. It's part of your biology. It's how we're wired. We need other people. You say, oh no, I'm being codependent. I need other people too much. I'm just going to need nobody. Still codependence, because your needs and your intuition and what you are is human that needs other people, and you are denying that and losing yourself. Learning that about codependency was incredibly difficult for me because I had been very codependent, and then I did the thing where I withdrew and I was like, I just don't need anybody anymore. I lost self as well. And learning that was difficult. Codependency doesn't have an easy fix. It's not that you can just isolate and feel miserable and lonely all the time, and that's not codependency anymore. It is learning how to be what we call interdependent, where you are mutually relying on other people, but not to the extent that you're losing yourself. I'm going to make a couple more videos about codependency, such as typical codependent patterns, how to break out of codependency, etc. I am so sorry, and also you are so welcome for sharing this information with you. When I learned it all, I learned it over the course of several months in a very safe therapeutic setting. So if this was a lot for you, make sure to self-care. Use the National Crisis Hotline if you need to, 988. You don't need to be suicidal to call 988. You can just be in any sort of mental health crisis. Call 988. That's what it's there for. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck, and make sure to like and subscribe for more free mental health content. Thanks. Bye.